Libraries are quiet for a reason. But in the small town of Grendale, the silence inside its public library had a weight, like a room waiting for someone to speak the wrong name. Emily Sanders was 22, a literature student volunteering during her summer break. She loved the smell of old books, the feel of crinkled paper, the comforting tap of typewriter keys echoing from the archive room, where Mr. Mallory, the head librarian, still typed out catalog cards by hand. He was old-fashioned, polite, and always wore a green corduroy jacket no matter the season. The kind of man who didn't seem to age or ever take a sick day. The kind of man who appeared when you least expected him, quietly and always watching. On her third day, he handed her a faded key. "This goes to the basement records," he said, not quite meeting her eyes. "I think you'll find some interesting material for your project." Emily blinked. "The library has a basement." "Not officially," he smiled. The stairs were hidden behind a movable bookcase labeled Town Planning and Zoning. The key fit an old rusted door behind it. The light switch sparked but worked. Bare bulbs buzzed overhead, casting flickering light over rows of metal filing cabinets, dust-heavy shelves, and a lone desk bolted to the center of the room. She sat and opened the first drawer. Microfilm reels labeled with dates, every year going back to 1912. Each reel tagged with a name. She loaded one into the old viewer, fingers trembling slightly. January 12, 1974, Victor May, an obituary, but the man had no surviving relatives. Cause of death? Undisclosed. No police report. Another reel. March 3rd, 1989, Lorraine Bishop died in the library, reportedly fell down a staircase. No photos. No investigation. Strange. She'd never heard of either name. When she Googled them later that night, nothing. No digital trace. No ancestry records. Not even on town census files. She mentioned it to Mr. Mallory the next day. He paused, adjusting his glasses. Not all stories get told online. His voice dropped. Some of them don't want to be found. Later that afternoon, she noticed something strange in the microfilm viewer. A reflection, but not hers. In the glass, over her shoulder, a blurred figure stood behind her, slightly hunched, as if reading with her. She spun around. No one, just silence and the hum of dusty lights. If you discovered records of people that no one remembers, would you keep reading? Emily tried to shake it off. The figure in the glass? A trick of the light. Dust and reflections. She was sleep-deprived, reading grainy documents in a musty basement. Of course, her mind played games. But that night, she couldn't stop thinking about the obituaries. The missing names. She took photos with her phone, snapshots of the reels, the names, the headlines. But when she checked her gallery later, the images were corrupted. Just static. Only one survived. A blurry frame showing the words. Library mourns its own. She went back the next morning, heart pounding, hoping for answers. This time, the cabinet drawers wouldn't open. The reels were gone. Only a single manila envelope lay on the table. Inside, pages typed on an old machine. Police reports, incident logs, notes marked confidential. All of them describing deaths in the library. All of them dismissed. But the most chilling thing? A list titled Potentials. Names were typed in neat rows. And at the bottom, under a freshly typed line, Emily Sanders, June 23rd, 2025. Her birthday, her name, not under staff, not under patrons, but under retained. She rushed upstairs. Mr. Mallory wasn't at his desk. None of the other librarians had seen him that day, but the main doors were still locked from the inside. When she tried to leave, the security system buzzed with an error. Asterisk, access denied, new entry log. Asterisk, she stared at the screen. A single line blinked in red. Emily Sanders, status, archived. She wasn't a visitor anymore. She was becoming part of the library. If the building you stood in knew your name and had already written your ending, would you try to rewrite it? Emily sprinted back to the hidden basement. The door slammed behind her. She didn't care. She had to find out what this place really was and why her name was on that list. The filing cabinets were back in place. The microfilm reels reappeared. The desk had moved slightly, just enough to reveal a seam in the floor. A trapdoor. No latch, no handle, just a faint, etched symbol, a circle with an eye in the center. She pressed it, a quiet click. Then it opened. A metal staircase led downward, far deeper than the library's foundation should go. The air grew colder with each step. Walls turned from concrete to smooth stone, marked with carvings. Old sigils, symbols, names etched into the stone like a ledger. Emily turned her phone flashlight on. At the bottom, another room. Circular, silent. The floor was a spiral mosaic made from tiny stone tiles. Shelves lined the walls, but instead of books, they held jars, each with a paper tag attached. Names, hundreds of them. She stepped closer. The jars contained ash, dust, burnt fragments of what looked like parchment or skin. A low hum began to rise from the walls, not mechanical, but vocal, like whispers overlapping in waves. She turned to leave. One jar fell, not pushed. It leapt. It rolled to her feet. The tag on it read, Lorraine Bishop, March 3rd, 1989. She backed away, but the door she entered through was gone. A solid stone wall now blocked her exit. And then, the spiral mosaic began to shift beneath her. Not move, asterisk, asterisk, shift, asterisk, asterisk, like something alive turned over beneath the tiles. A voice whispered directly into her ear, though no one was there. You're late. She screamed, backing toward the shelf, but the jars began to shake. Names rattled on the tags. And then, she saw a jar labeled, Emily Sanders, June 23rd, 2025. Empty, waiting. If your name was already etched in stone beneath your feet, would you run, or would you face what waits below? Emily stood in silence, heart pounding. The room didn't echo like a normal basement. It absorbed sound. Even her breathing seemed too loud. The jar with her name stared up at her, empty, waiting, like the room had known she'd arrive long before she did. She ran her fingers along the shelf. The jars were warm, not dusty, not forgotten, active. She tried to retrace her steps, tapping the wall. Nothing gave way. Then the humming stopped. The room fell into an unbearable silence, so deep it hurt her ears. A sound broke it. Footsteps. Slow, measured, coming from behind the shelf wall. Then a mechanical click. A section of the shelf shifted inward, revealing another room. Emily stepped through. The temperature dropped 10 degrees instantly. This was no ordinary archive. In the center stood a towering reel-to-reel tape machine, unplugged but whirring softly. The tape spun in reverse. On a nearby table, folders, yellowed, labeled, witnesses never released. She opened one. Photos of people, faces frozen in shock, fear, awe, all with the same backdrop, this room. And in every photo, behind them, stood Mr. Mallory, always just behind their left shoulder. Unaged, unchanged. One folder was labeled simply, Volunteers. Inside it, a photo of her. She flipped it over. A date written in fading pen. June 23rd, 2025. Today. Suddenly, the reel stopped. The room pulsed. And Mr. Mallory stepped in, wearing that same green corduroy jacket, unwrinkled and ageless. I had hoped you'd stop digging, he said gently, as if disappointed. Emily backed away. What is this place? She whispered. He tilted his head. A memory vault. We keep what others discard. History rewritten, erased, or prevented. He gestured around them. You've read the files. You've touched the jars. That makes you part of the archive. No, she whispered. I'm not staying here. You already have. The door behind him sealed shut. The reel-to-reel clicked on. Emily turned. Her own voice played back from earlier that day. I love this old building. It has stories in its bones. Her words echoed, but she hadn't recorded anything. If your voice started playing back moments you never captured, would you listen or scream? Emily lunged toward the table, grabbed her photo, and backed into the corner. Mr. Mallory watched her, not angry, not fearful, patient, the kind of patience only time could teach. You don't belong here, she said. But I do, he replied. And now so do you. Emily scanned the room, eyes darting between shelves, machines, shadows. She needed a way out. The tape machine ticked softly, Her voice, her words, continued to loop. She hadn't said half of them, at least not aloud, but the machine played them anyway. Private thoughts, regrets, memories she hadn't spoken in years. Then a second voice began to overlap. Faint, whispering, not hers. It repeated a phrase again and again. Retain, 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 asterisk, asterisk. She covered her ears, but the sound was inside her head now. Mallory stepped aside, revealing a final door. Unlike the others, this one was wooden, carved with strange text and an old lock that glowed faintly blue. He said, "This is your choice." Emily reached out, her hands trembling. "Open it, and you'll see what the archive really is." She looked back at him. "If I open that door, what happens to me?" He didn't answer, because there was no answer, only choice. She opened the door. Inside, a single room, empty except for a wooden desk. On it, a typewriter and a blank file folder. Above it, her name, Emily Sanders, case pending. She sat. The typewriter began to clack on its own. The folder filled line by line. Her story was being written. But by who? She stood, screamed into the room. "No one will believe this." And then everything stopped. The lights went out. The hum vanished. And silence returned. Emily Sanders was never seen again. The Grendale Library still functions today. Mr. Mallory is still there. Still ageless. Still quiet. And every summer, a new volunteer comes to help him catalog the archives. Their names? Never listed, unless you go downstairs, behind the zoning books, where the real records are kept. Would you visit? Would you read? Would you stay? Subscribe to Unseen Evidence for more stories like this, because some names are meant to be whispered